Good evening, everyone. It's good to have everyone out with us tonight. If you're worshiping with us from home, we're also glad that you're here. Our first song this evening will be Victory in Jesus. Victory in Jesus. We'll sing the first and last verses of this song. Victory in Jesus.
I heard an old story, how a Savior came from glory, how he gave his life on Calvary to save a wretch like me. I heard about his groaning, of his precious blood's atoning. Then I repented of my sins and won the victory. Oh, victory in Jesus, my Savior, forever. He sought me and bought me with his redeeming blood. He loved me ere I knew him, and all my love is to him. He plunged me to victory beneath the cleansing flood. I heard about the mansion he has built for me in glory, and I heard about the street of gold beyond the crystal sea, about the angels singing and the old redemption story. And some sweet day I'll sing up there the song of victory. Oh, victory in Jesus, my Savior, forever. He sought me and bought me with his redeeming blood. He loved me ere I knew him, and all my love is to him. He plunged me to victory beneath the cleansing flood. Next song this evening will be We Will Glorify. We Will Glorify. We'll sing all four verses. After this song, we're going to have our opening prayer. We will glorify the King of Kings. We will glorify the Lamb. We will glorify the Lord of Lords, who is the great I am. Lord Jehovah reigns in majesty. We will bow before his throne. We will worship him in righteousness. We will worship him alone. He is Lord of heaven, Lord of earth. He is Lord of all who live. He is Lord above the universe. All praise to him we give. Hallelujah to the King of Kings. Hallelujah to the Lamb. Hallelujah to the Lord of Lords, who is the great I am.
You bow with me, please. Just Lord, just thank you for this day and the blessings that you give us each day. The ones that we see, the ones that we do not see. I want to thank you for everybody that got to make it tonight. The ones that are sick at home, just be with them. Be with the ones that have lost loved ones, be with them. Be with the ones in the nursing home, ones that have to stay at home. Be with all of them that they may get to come back. Be with our elders here. Be with our deacons. Be with all the teachers and the ones that do jobs and stuff. Be with everybody that's here. Just be with us, guard, guide, and direct us, and bring us back to the next appointed time. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Our song of invitation tonight will be The Old Rugged Cross. The Old Rugged Cross. And the song before our reading in our lesson will be When I Survey the Wondrous Cross. We'll sing the first, second, and last verses.
When I survey the
Reading tonight is taken from Luke chapter 14, verses 10 and verses 11. Luke 14, 10 and 11. But when you're invited, go and sit down in the lowest place, so that when he who invited you comes, he may say to you, "Friend, go up higher." Then you will have glory in the presence of those who sit at the table with you. For whoever exalts himself will be humbled, and he who humbles himself will be exalted.
Good evening, everybody. We are ending our sermon series that we've been doing on Sunday nights called Helpful Words. We've talked about a lot of different words like the image of God. Actually, let me say what's right. Image of God. We've talked about reconciliation. We've talked about redemption. We've talked about a number of different topics that are very important for ourselves when we communicate with others. When we think about our communication with others, sometimes we can use words that we don't really know what their meaning is. We can use words and think that we're using them in a right way, and quite possibly we're using them in a faulty way or in a way that causes more confusion than anything else. Not only just that, but when we communicate with those in maybe in other places outside in the world, or maybe those who go to other types of churches, that this might actually be helpful in knowing whether we have middle ground, whether there is something that maybe we didn't understand before, or whether we can be even more staunch in our understanding of actual doctrinal errors that they might be under. But tonight we want to conclude with the idea of glory. We want to conclude with this idea of glory and how important glory is. How many of us have ever been to the symphony? Has anyone ever been to the symphony? There's something about the symphony that makes this boy from the west side of Jacksonville feel a little uncomfortable. Okay. I grew up in a very poor neighborhood in Jacksonville, in one that was really riddled with crime. And we would go to the symphony. My parents loved the symphony. I actually was with people who also liked going to the symphony, who got in for cheap. They got in for free, and I got in for cheap. And we would go downtown, and we'd go to the Jacksonville Symphonic, Orchestra, and we would go and watch them. And there was something really awe-inspiring about it. There was a little bit of an element where I felt like I was not in the right place. I would perhaps wear my jeans that day and a polo shirt, and I would walk in, and then there would be the business guy who was an attorney of law downtown in some rich law firm, and he would be wearing his suit, and he was real excited to be there that day. Or there was the piano teacher who was dressed up in the nicest that she could dress up in, and she would be there with a bunch of her young people, and they would be dressed just as nice. We go to these places, and maybe we feel out of place. That it is a place that has so much, we might even say, honor. A place that is so looked up upon, like that we look up to. A place that has all of these rules and ways of thinking that we feel maybe sometimes like, whoa, like I'm here. I need to chill out for a second. I don't know if you say that, but I would say that. Or maybe you have been to the Grand Canyon. My parents went to the Grand Canyon, and one of my favorite stories to tell is my mother, actually, we're on Facebook. Okay, if you want to hear this story, I'll tell you afterwards, okay? I just realized that we're on Facebook. But the Grand Canyon is one of those great things in which we go, and we're just awe-inspired. One of my goals is to go, but every time that I hear someone went to the Grand Canyon, they just stand on that rim and they just look out. And there is a fear because when you go, from what I understand, there is no guardrails. There is nothing keeping you from taking a dive into the Grand Canyon. There's nothing stopping you from going to the very front of the canyon and just taking a look down. They actually say that there's about 4 or 5 people a year who die because they got a little crazy with their photos. And they decided to get as close as possible to take photos of the Grand Canyon. And so then they end up falling in and hurting themselves or dying because of it. And so with this place, there is a little bit of some fear. There's a little bit of this scared feeling of like, whoa, I need to respect this place. I need to respect the place that I'm coming to. I need to respect this place as I gather closer and closer. And when I look, I need to say, whoa now, I need to respect what I'm around and respect where I am. These words, awe-inspiring, magnificent, majestic, fear, come into contact when we talk about the glory. When we talk specifically even more about the glory of God. Because the glory of God is used in all sorts of ways, but more specifically, we think of the glory of God as the presence of the very Lord, our God himself. So you might turn to Exodus chapter 33. In the book of Exodus chapter 33, Moses desires to see the glory of God. He wants to see God. Chapter 33, verses 18 through 23. And he said, please show me your glory. Then he said, I will make all my goodness pass before you, and I will proclaim the name of the Lord before you. I will be gracious to whom I will be gracious, and I will have compassion on whom I will have compassion. But he said, you cannot see my face, for no man shall see me and live. And the Lord said, here is a place by me, and you shall stand on the rock. So it shall be while my glory passes by that I will put you in the cleft of the rock and will cover you with my hand while I pass by. Then I will take away my hand, and you shall see my back, but my face shall not be seen. Notice that when we talk about the glory of God, God all of a sudden keeps bringing up his face. He keeps talking about his back. He's talking about his hand. He's talking about like bodily things. And so when we think of the glory of God, what first should come to our mind is God's presence, God being there. And God's presence is something not to take lightly. When Isaiah 6 comes around and Isaiah is in the presence of God, there is a magnificent fear that comes upon him. There is a recognition that I am not at the right place. I am not supposed to be here. This is not where I'm supposed to be. And we can feel that sometimes in many different places, and it's because of the glory of that place. It's because of the glory of that area. Ezekiel chapter 10. Ezekiel chapters 8 through chapters 11 is all about God's glory and how the people have created this environment where God can no longer have his glory there in the temple. In Ezekiel chapter 10, in verses 18 and 19, this is what it says. Then the glory of the Lord departed from the threshold of the temple and stood over the cherubim. And the cherubim lifted their wings and mounted up from the earth in my sight. When they went out, the wheels were beside them, and they stood at the door of the east gate of the Lord's house, and the glory of God of Israel was above them. And here they are being lifted up, the glory of the Lord being lifted up, and he's rolling out of there. No longer can he be in this place, but he's leaving, and he's going from this place. So when we think of God's glory, we should think of God's presence. God is there with the people, that he might show up in a pillar of fire, but his presence is there. This is what God's glory is. God's glory is also power. Psalm 145. We'll turn there really quick and read that. Psalm 145. Starting in verse 4, one generation shall praise your works to another and shall declare your mighty acts. I will meditate on the I will meditate on the glorious splendor of your majesty and on your wondrous works. Men shall speak of the might of your awesome acts, and I will declare your greatness. They shall utter the memory of your great goodness and shall sing of your righteousness. The Lord is gracious and full of compassion, slow to anger and great in mercy. The Lord is good to all, and his tender mercies are over all his works. All your works shall praise you, O Lord, and your saints shall bless you. They shall speak of the glory of your kingdom. So what are these works? But to speak of God's great kingship and of God's great kingdom, in which that he is in control and that he is in charge of the whole world. And you know that by the way that he works within the world. You know that by his attributes of himself: slow to anger, compassionate, caring, mighty. That all of these things show the glory of God. It's really important that we understand that the glory of God exists whether you accept it or not. God's glory is still in existence, whether we believe it or whether we have seen it or not. Sometimes we take glory and we try to take it away from God. Well, what has God ever done for me? What has God done this? And that's very, very dangerous. Because God's glory is his. God has proven in the very creation of the world that you see around you that he has mighty works and mighty acts, and that he has the ability to do whatever he desires. And God's glory is in his presence, and when we are in his presence, when 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, we might want to remember that verse. When we are in his presence, it is a time to be respectful. It's a time to be thoughtful. It's a time to be awe-inspiring, not because of whatever your preacher looks like. It's not because of whatever song leader is up there and whatever song that he's singing, but it's all about where we are and what we're doing. And so the glory of God, glory is all about this awe-inspiring, this majestic, this magnificent, that it can instill fear in us. But what about our own glory? That's probably the one that we get really confused about, is that we ourselves can have glory. And sometimes the problem is that we bestow that glory on ourselves. Look with me in Luke chapter 14. Luke chapter 14 will be actually where we spend the rest of the night. Luke chapter 14, we must remember that in the time of Jesus, there is a system called the honor-shame system. They wouldn't have said this, but we have used that as a title for what they do or how they thought. Their goal is to have as much honor as possible. The most honorable person in the world is who? It's Caesar, isn't it? Caesar is the top dog. He's the alpha. He's all the way up here. And everybody else is just trying to get a little bit closer to the most honorable. So you might try to live in this life and you might try to always get up on the chain. You're trying to get that next promotion. You're trying to get to that next place so that more honor will be given to you. If you're just a local tax collector, your next goal might be to be the governor or to be the centurion or to be the next big thing. And then when you're the governor, you're trying to get into the Senate. And when you're trying to get into the Senate, you're trying to get into that next stage. I don't know Greek politics very well. But anyways, what I'm trying to say is this. It's always trying to get to the next thing. You might remember Mark chapter 10, verses 45, where Jesus says, I did not come to be served, but to serve. We actually talked about this then. When James and John are trying to be where? On Jesus' left hand and on his right. And so this is what we're dealing with. This is the area that we're going into when we talk about people who want to be honored. It's all about how we are seen in the world. How does the world look at me? Do I have honor or do I have shame? Because the shameful are the orphans, the paraplegics, the lame, or another word for that, the lame, those who are divorced. All of these things dishonorable. You get shame with that. And shame puts you into this other camp of where, hey, why deal with that guy? Why deal with the poor? Why try to get to know the poor people? Why try to get to know them? They don't bring me any honor. They don't bring me any magnificence. Because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to be surrounded by people who are going to give me more honor. So that when you see me, oh, he hangs out with Jimmy Medley. That's a good group to hang out with. And that's still true, Jimmy. But that's the group that you want to be. You want to be surrounded by great people. So let's read this in Luke chapter 14, verses 7 through 11. So he told a parable to those who were invited, whom he noted how they chose, notice this, they chose the best places. They went and they tried to sit in the best places. They tried to sit on the front row. They tried to sit in the best places. And this is what he said to them. When you are invited to a wedding feast, do not sit down in the best place, lest one more honorable than you be invited by him. And he who invited you and him come and say to you, give place to this man, and then you begin with shame to take the lowest place. So stop for a second and think. Don't try to sit in the best place, and then someone have to come and say, ooh, Baron, that's not your seat. You're down there on the very end. You're down at the other table. You're down there by the bathrooms. That's where your seat is. So don't try to get to the highest place, and then now you have to be moved down. Instead, this is what you should do. Verse 10. But when you are invited, go and sit down in the lowest place, so that when he who invited you comes, he may say to you, friend, go up higher. Then you will have glory in the presence of those who sit at the table with you. For whoever exalts himself will be humbled, and he who humbles himself will be exalted. And so here, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to sit at the lowest place. Go sit by the bathrooms already. Just say hey, I'm good enough for it. There's nothing wrong with me. I can go sit over there. I can go sit at this place. And then that way, when someone looks over at you and they're thinking, whoa, why is Baron sitting by the bathroom? Come on, you come over here. Come sit with us. Come sit in this place. And then there is where your glory is. Glory is not found when we are trying to bestow it upon ourselves. Glory is not found when we're trying our best to let other people see how magnificent we are. we find out that we are not that magnificent, or that someone else is actually more magnificent than we are, despite what our work career has been like, despite what our bank accounts say, despite what our church life says. There's always going to be someone more magnificent. This happens especially in preaching. It's easy to say, whoa, we got the best preacher, until you realize on that gospel meeting day, man, I don't know. And it happens. It happens to all sorts of people when we look at our careers, when we look at our families, when we look at all sorts of places. There is always going to be a better father. There's always going to be a better mother. There's always going to be a better this or that, a better person that does the job than you. And so the best thing that we can do is not try to take the glory, not try to say, well, look at me, look at me, look at me. It's actually to let others bestow glory on us. It's all about trying to it's all about when we look at ourselves that we are just trying to humble ourselves. That glory is not ours to give to ourselves. It's actually something that God bestows on us. It's something that others bestow on us. And our search to be glorified, our search to try and to receive as much glory as possible, is only going to be ruined when we realize, there's someone better than us. There's someone that's better than us. And that one of the things that we can do as God's people is not try to find that glory. Our job is actually to serve and to look at others as more important than ourselves. We talked about this in Philippians. A lot of what we are saying here deals with pride, and it deals with humility. Are we going to be humble? Are we going to look at ourselves and say, whoa, I don't have any glory. I'm just here to work. I'm just here to put my hands to the workshop, and I'm just trying to produce what I can for this church. I'm not here to be seen by everybody. I'm not here to be seen and to be recognized. That's not what I'm here for. I'm just here to work. Now, I will say, as I've moved up here to Alabama, I have met a few people from Alabama now. And now in a lesson like this, I need to say this. If someone wants to glorify you, let them. I feel like I need to say that, because what we will do is that we will try to say, no. And we will try our hardest to get someone not ever to speak our name ever again. Don't say nothing about me. Don't say nothing about me. And here we are, and we're trying to say, this is great. You did a great work. And sometimes you're trying very hard to get us to be quiet, and all we want to do is just to say thank you. We're trying to move you up a seat. And you're saying, oh, no, I want to go back this way. When the Lord doesn't say, when the guy wants you to move forward, the guy doesn't say no. He says, yes, I'll move. And so I think it's important that we recognize that we don't bestow glory on ourselves, but don't rob yourself of the glory that someone's trying to give you. Don't let yourself say, no, don't give me glory. And I think there's a fine line, but it's a line that we need to recognize and a line that we need to understand. I'm glad that you're here tonight. Sunday nights are one of those great blessings in the world that sometimes we forget that we have. Sunday nights can end up being the little time before Monday morning, and we're sitting there thinking, oh, Monday, it's tomorrow, and that might hurt us on Sunday nights because we don't ever really sit and think about how great it is that we get another moment to be with each other. And there are some who wish that we had moments like this Sunday to Saturday. And then on Sunday, we just get right back started again, and we're just excited to do it again. But man, I'm glad for the times that we have. These times are awe-inspiring. These times are magnificent. And there are times that I know that when we think about it, if we don't have them, which, by the way, in 2020, we didn't have a lot of them, then man, we should be really excited to be here, excited to have this moment. And so here we are, and we have a moment where we can use this magnificent, awe-inspiring time, not only to sing praises to God, but to also ask that wonderful, magnificent, majestic Father of us all for forgiveness. That maybe that Monday through Saturday, when we wish we would have been here, we were out doing something we shouldn't have been doing. That we were living a life that we shouldn't have been living. And tonight, we have an opportunity to ask God for that forgiveness. To search out for that purity that comes through the washing of His blood. And you might need that this evening. And if you do, we are here and ready to take you and to pray with you and to pray for you. If you need to be baptized, we're here for you. If you need just prayers because life's rough right now, we're here for you. So won't you come? As together we stand as we sing.
On a hill far away.